welcome back to part 2 of this latest QTalks, which is all around the changing role of the water operator. In case you missed it, part 1, the first kind of 30 minutes is really introducing our speakers. We have Dulke Schippers, a leading professional from Wittens, the largest water utility in the Netherlands, as well as Jouke Koning, the program manager also from Wittens. We heard from Audie Findlay, the superintendent from Greenville, Indiana, as well as Chris Sanowski, the CEO of WaterClick. And some really kind of interesting context, I think, when we've got one utility in the Netherlands with 1,400 employees through to one in the US with 5, but actually both facing the same challenges. And we also looked at the kind of topics of PFAS and also the developments of digital twinning in the Netherlands. So we've, I guess, for the first part, looked at the challenges, the impact, kind of looked at the predictions, but actually now we want to talk about kind of the internal, the people, actually achieving behavioural change, which can often be one of the biggest, you could say, stumbling blocks to adopting innovation. And one thing I want to start with is just picking up on a conversation between Audie and Jouke is around that kind of knowledge sharing element, because Jouke, you mentioned that sharing is not sharing is caring, to use this phrase, but actually, you want all utilities around the world to share best practice. And a comment that had come up in a previous kind of call was around, the use of social media and how I think there is this echo chamber on LinkedIn where we think all water utilities are tuning in, but actually, like, how many people are actually turning to LinkedIn for the latest information? So I'd love to kind of hear maybe from you, Audie, because you mentioned in the break actually how you get together with fellow small utilities to share best practice. And so how important is that? And also, how many of your team are actually on LinkedIn every day looking at the latest updates, right? I'd love just to get a reality check on that.
So we have the nice opportunity to be able to get together. We have we have experienced in Indiana at least some regionalization, kind of driven by some legislation. So, but even before that, there was a small group of utility operators just within our local southern Indiana utility area that we would sit down together on a quarterly basis, just kind of informally, and just talk about the challenges and what we're dealing with. And one of the things we're dealing with now is lead and copper. That's kind of one of, for us, is a very emerging how to deal with that. And whether or not we can work with certain vendors or experiences along those lines. But you mentioned LinkedIn. It's actually kind of interesting. So my question, I guess, to the group is, I'm not familiar with LinkedIn. And maybe that kind of answers the question that you're asking, because why should I be on LinkedIn is probably the biggest question I'm going to get if I ask someone else in our local area. They're going to say, why should I be? And I don't have an answer to that. So I guess I'd kind of kick it back to the group. And why is that important?
Well, let's hear from Dulke and Jouke. Are you guys on LinkedIn?
Yeah, of course.
And how often do you use it in terms of knowledge and networking and that type of thing?
Now, I think the most important thing is not the knowledge, but to bridge people together. So, and when you bridge people together, the knowledge will come. But it's not, for me, it's not a knowledge platform, but it's to link to people, I guess, telling questions. And sometimes I look at it on daily basis. So I look a lot on the LinkedIn things coming from different companies, from different people, and sometimes you get a trigger. Hey, that's quite interesting. So, we talked about PFAS, for instance. Oh, that's quite interesting. He's also working on PFAS. Well, just a short, quick. You have some kind of WhatsApp function in LinkedIn. You send a message to the guy and say, okay, shall we meet? So it's, for me, it's more collaboration platform. So to search for collaborations, just for knowledge sharing, I think it's a trigger to get something. Okay, it's about PFAS, interesting. You make the bridge to the guy or to the company, and then you move on. So that's, for me, the first trigger, I guess, for knowledge sharing. But it's not the knowledge-based platform for me now.
Jouke, what about from your side?
Yeah, I can completely agree with Dulke. I'm almost daily on looking at LinkedIn, but it's connecting with other people and not the real sharing the knowledge.
So it's interesting because both of you said, okay, connecting to the right people on these topics of interest now and in the future, like PFAS. But actually, Audie, from what you're saying, is why should I be on that, right? Because you can connect with your team, you can connect locally with small utilities, and actually, at the moment, that suffices for what you need.
I edit that comment just a little bit because it doesn't actually suffice what I need. I would add that qualifier because I want to be connected with. One of the best things that's happened for Greenville is, we kind of bounced off of another small tech company, and they kind of looped us back around, and we came in contact with Chris. And those types of relationships, I don't think would have been possible. They probably would have been more possible had we been, connected onto a platform such as LinkedIn, as opposed to kind of, those in-person, discussions that kind of evolved into these relationships. But, those types of things have been transformative for us. And I think kind of going back to Chris's, comment in the earlier episode was, just being willing to try. But I want to be in contact with more people who are saying, "Hey, will you try this?" And we're a small enough company that we can try those things. And I want to be in more contact with that. So, I'll check out LinkedIn because I wasn't as familiar with, and I think that kind of talks to the point you're trying to make here, is that there are resources out there, but are we using them effectively? And to be frank, sounds like I'm not.
Yeah, I was playing a bit of the sort of devil's advocate, pushing you with that comment there. So, but I think this is quite important, not only in terms of connecting with the right people, but one of the things we wanted to speak about was just attracting and retaining kind of new talent. This is what you mentioned, Yuka, in terms of, a big number of your senior engineers are due to retire. So actually kind of having a presence on social media platforms actually out there is one way to connect with young water professionals looking to join, but also that will naturally become part of their role as well. Can you perhaps comment on that?
Yeah, of course. It's definitely true. We used to have put our new job on our own internet site, and then people would apply. But that's not the case anymore. You really have to work hard for it. Everybody needs the same talented people. The technical people are so willing and so wanted by also the energy companies, lots of other stuff. So you really have to make a whole campaign about it on social media, on LinkedIn. You have to go to schools. You have to really work hard for it. And then we can manage. When Duke was still the manager of the operation, we had to get 22 new technical staff, operators and technicians within 3 months, I guess it was, and we
Yes.
managed. And you can do it, but you have to think in another way and use other channels to reach the people.
Yeah, totally agree. Well, I think in terms of attracting new talent, even younger professionals that are looking for now an organisation driven with purpose, and arguably you could say delivering clean water to the world. The Netherlands is a fantastic purpose to kind of join, but actually not only that, but looking that the organisation is digital first, is innovative, and has a kind of presence on social media. It's including LinkedIn. It's one of those data points that I think all potential people looking to join the company are going to look towards. But Chris, let's hear from you on this, because you speak to a lot of, I guess, utilities and people like Audi of that scale in the US. Is that quite a common thing you hear? Like, we're not on LinkedIn, maybe we want to find out more about it. And
no, this is definitely a global issue that everyone deals with, and talent acquisition is a hard nut to crack. I think in time, you just said it really well. I think that a lot of younger employees are looking for a different type of an employer than my parents were. And there are some good parts of that and some not so good parts of that. My dad was looking for a job that would pay him reliably, and he was grateful to have that. And my grandfather's generation was just looking to have a job that paid. So now we're looking for a job that pays pays reliably, is somewhat socially responsible, has a little bit of purpose and vision to it. But I think there's 2 points I probably want to make on this. And number one is something I actually said when I was on a panel in the Swan conference, and I knew the comment was well received. When I said it, everyone looked up from their phones. And it was a room full of over 100 people. And someone asked, how do you deal with this problem of, finding people to join and attract talent in the water industry? And I said, I looked out in the audience. I say, if everyone in this room were to just mentor 2 people, we wouldn't have a problem. I think that some of the culture is to look at like what an organization can do, like an institution to attract talent. But I think when it comes down to it, we've lost a bit of the mentorship that used to happen a few generations ago. And if you want to look at personal responsibility to the water industry, mentor 2 people. I actually think that if we got better at that, maybe that we would have less of a talent thing. And I don't know, it's hard for people to do. And it's probably, I would say, easier for someone like Audie to do, because if you're from a small town, you typically have a tighter knit community. Less people necessarily leave, but things have changed in the last 50 to 100 years where people now leave for jobs all the time. So we've lost a little community. So it is a little harder. But I think even for a large utility, how do you effectively mentor people with so many rules about what you can and can't do? It's very hard. People look to their organizations to say, I need a mentoring program to mentor. So I think part of the talent acquisition problem is more human. Like, let's go find 2. I say 2, but could be 3 or 4, because chances are 1 or 2 are going to move on. But let's mentor. But I also do want to echo, like, I think that, Tom, you said that, they need to have something that's attractive, something that's fun. And I think that technology has a wonderful opportunity in the utility space to inspire people, because I've seen wastewater treatment plant tours. One of my most proud moments is I was in the back of the room and someone had our app on their phone and they were showing it to another operator. They said, hey, check out how we manage our data. And all the guys leaned in and looked at the phone and they said, wow, you're able to use your phone to manage your data? That's really cool. And it was fun watching the young staff lean in and kind of like elbow the senior level guy and said, I know it's not politically correct, but like, hey, old man, why can't we get an app like that? So I think that makes it exciting and fun for young people to join too. So I think that hopefully technology brings, something attractive into the space, but then the challenge is the utilities. You have to adopt it first. We have to get people interested. So there's plenty of opportunity though.
Thanks. Yeah, great comments. Lots to sort of pick apart. I think from a generation point of view, it's the phrase, you have a job for life. My father even told that to me on my first publishing company, and then kind of, here we are 15 years later. But I think also mentoring is incredibly important for the staff retention, because if you can get people through the doors naturally to show them from an experienced hand the beauties of the water treatment industry and actually how it can be a really rewarding, fulfilling career, matchmaking perhaps new starters with seasoned professionals could be a really nice kind of sunset to a lot of careers as well. But
absolutely.
Duka, how do you see that from a kind of mentoring point of view within Vitens? Is that something that's kind of promoted quite heavily within?
Well, decades ago, it was normal that you got a mentoring ship and people got into the company and were mentored by senior people with a lot of working experience. It's nice to do because I'm also a little bit experienced. Hopefully I am. But, so it's nice to get in young people because they are also, giving you a very nice, insight into their heads and to how the planet is moving. And I think it's a peer-to-peer kind of way because they have our insights and I have insight, and bringing those two together is brilliant. And that's what we saw because last year we got in successfully 22 people, as Jouke mentioned, but it was also thanks to an onboarding program we had. So an onboarding program where people not got, okay, there's your production side, good luck and carry on. No, they got knowledge, they got they get connected with people within the company. If you have a problem, you have to search there, or you can ask him. So it's kind of mentorship with a lot of different mentors surrounding one guy. So I think that's what's quite successful, because I think it's good, because all the experienced guys we have such a lot of knowledge. In 2025, 30% of our people will leave the company due to retirement. Well, good luck to them. It's nice for them. It's good. But it means that 30% of our knowledge will go away. So if you don't have a mentor and pupil relationship, you will lose that kind of knowledge. And also the other way around, as Chris mentioned, the new guys coming in and looking at apps in a different way, and getting into the senior guys. Well, look at it, what I have, and look here. Oh, and then also the senior guys get involved, and so it's bi-directional, I guess, and it's quite interesting. So I think it kind of mentorship, and also learning as a senior from the new generation, I would call it, is also very interesting. Chris, you want to add something? To that, I guess.
And it's great to hear, and I love these like global conversations, learning that we're all people and human. But one of the things I just heard you talking about was we see it too. You have people with 20, 30, 40 plus years of experience in the industry, and there's just no technology to plug a USB jack into their head and extract that knowledge. But I think that there should be a sense of urgency with this more senior staff that I love the word legacy, because I think everyone wants to leave a legacy.
Yep.
And I think for an industry, and whether it's a technology or a person, we don't want our legacy to be a thing. We don't want it to be like a project necessarily. I guess it's good to have a good project legacies, but we want our legacy to be human. We want people to say that person poured into me. I love water analogies. They poured into me. And so the challenge to the senior level staff is, I know it's hard to mentor when you maybe haven't done it intentionally for years, but figure this out and then listen. Like you said, it's a two-way thing. Listen to the young staff. Look at how they use their phone to solve their own problems and entertain themselves, but right. And figure out how your organization can get more efficient, because, it's beautiful watching even my own teenage children. I'm a technologist. I watch my kids. I'm like, how did you do that fast? Teach me, because I also want to tell them and teach them, slow down. Sometimes it's good to listen, and maybe listen with your ears, not with your eyes on your phone, because you'll hear something, whether it be a pump or something in your friend. So there's wonderful opportunity for senior level staff to leave a good legacy of their career by using technology to bridge that generation, because you're going to make your utility better in the process. So great comments.
But I mean, how incredibly rewarding is that? As I mentioned, the kind of the phrase, the sunset of a career, but actually to look back on people that you've influenced. And actually, if it means that you've, from a senior point of view, influenced a young professional to then have a full career and stay put for a significant amount of time at a single utility, for example, I mean, that is an incredible thing to look back on. And I love that both of you mentioned it. It should be win-win from both sides. And actually, it's a nice segue to the point I want to talk about, which is around behavioural change. And kind of getting over the whole, we've done things this way for the last 10 years, why should we change? We're meeting regulations, I can go home at 5 o'clock. But actually, if you're linking that kind of multi-generational partnership where not that we're stereotyping here, but the young person who's more phone savvy might say, let's think about things a slightly different way to change the thinking. So, Audie, let's get your thoughts on that and kind of mentoring and also behavior change and how you see that as a potential way around that, because again, with a utility kind of with 5 people, how does that play out?
Yeah, so that's an interesting question. We fight with a lot of the same issues everyone else is, but I think sometimes we come into it with a little bit on the short end of the stick. We obviously, as a smaller utility, have a smaller budget. And so that's hard to be able to provide the salary or the benefits package that is competitive with some of the larger utilities in the area. And yet we still need that same high level of operator in our staff to be effective for our utility and for our community. And so we do the best we can in that area. But beyond that, we have to create an environment that someone wants to be here. And I think a lot of that comes from, there's one guy steering the ship, but everyone's on the same boat. And so we spend a lot of that time, in those conversations about what would you do? I want to make sure that our people feel empowered. I know I'm not the smartest guy in the room. Collectively, we're more intelligent as a group, and so we'll have a particular issue, and even the part-time guy who might have been here just a few months, I'm gonna sit down. I'm gonna listen to his experience. I'm gonna say, why would you do it that way? Because I need that new perspective. But I think that helps people to feel more part of a team, more part of a work family, if you will. That when someone comes along and tries to offer more money and tries to pull that talent away, they're going to say, you know what, here I've got someone that cares about me and that really thinks about what I can offer the team, and I'm valuable. I'm a meaningful, valuable member of this team. That's something I think that we can offer that it's harder for a bigger utility to offer, because you're sitting with the superintendent every single day, and sometimes they'll come in the office and I'm sitting here taking care of some management opportunity or that responsibility, and they're having a hard time figuring out something that's going on in the field, and literally we'll roll up the sleeves and we'll go out there and lay in the mud, do what we have to do to make sure that the next time they're more empowered to make those decisions and to be able to be more independent along those ways. But we do a lot of team building exercises together in tackling the challenges that come about day to day, because I don't time and unforeseen occurrence, anything can happen to me any single part of the day, and I want this team to be able to pick up and walk away without me if that's what's necessary. And I think that's the goal. It should be the goal of every mentor. The student should surpass the teacher. And so I think, like Chris said, and Duca said, that's our legacy, is the student can look back and say, that guy taught me, and look where I've been able to go because of that.
As a film buff, I'm desperately resisting the urge to kind of bring in a Star Wars analogy here with Luke Skywalker and Yoda, but not to make reference to kind of young water professionals and seasoned water professionals and Yoda, but actually there's something to be said there. But Jelke, then, how do you, because again, link this back to kind of what's happening within Vitens, and obviously the knowledge transfer, mentoring, the use of digital technologies, digital twin, it all needs to be part of the mix, right? So for you guys to get in new talent, even to attract them away from higher paying even areas like renewable energy and electric vehicles that, arguably are going to get more headlines than the water sector. So how do you see this?
Yeah, I think what you mentioned, that people want to be to work for a company who who does something good for the environment, and drinking water is an essential health issue for the people. So they want to do meaningful work. This is one thing why they're choosing for Vitens. And what Audie just said, I guess it's true that in a small company it's easier to get this team building going, because we have about 75 technicians and about 40 process operators, and they don't see each other daily. Maybe they don't even see each other at all altogether. They are in separated areas. The Vitens area is just too large to meet everybody, and providing new technique is one thing, but you're not ready then. You really need this business change part. And this is a lot about talking, listening to their my opinions. Sometimes just telling, this was the old way, we are going to do it different right now. But yeah, to take them with you in this whole journey is very important. So yeah, business change is really important. And we have, also because we are a bigger company, we have some business change managers. This is just a function who help us with this.
Mm-hmm. And do you to kind of comment on the previous comments before and the analogy with the phone, do you think when it comes to sort of behavior change then that actually having the younger and the more seasoned generation, I'm not going to use the word older, younger in season, I'm very careful with the phrasing on that, is very important to help change the mindset, because you're looking at some pretty advanced things when it comes to digital twinning, not only the plant. So obviously the mindset and the acceptance of those new way of doing things is going to be incredibly important for that.
I guess it's the mindset and the way of doing things on the one side, but also getting really a substantial amount of new employees. It's really changing the culture. So automatically the people who work with us for a longer period are also becoming curious to these new techniques, and it's helping them to adjust to this newer ways of working. So it's a culture shift as well.
Very good. So Dulka, 2100. I keep coming back to this number. If you're looking into your crystal ball on kind of all these topics we've talked about, where do you sort of see the role of the operator when it comes to 2100 in terms of digital technologies, mentoring, working for a company with purpose? How do you, if you could kind of just say, right, okay, in literally 80 years' time, this is how things are going to be?
Well, I think it's still it is a very important role within the drinking water company. It will stay an important role, but the role will change. And that's one thing I always said, because I have been manager for the production department for 12 years. And in that time, Jauki was my business change manager. So we joined together in our path to change the behavior of the people, because they were stuck in a kind of way of dealing with things, just focusing on the water quantity instead of water quality. And I think the change will be that the water quality becomes more and more important, because we didn't have a lot of problems with the water. We had enough water in the Netherlands. If you look at the map, there's water all around, and now we have shortage in the Netherlands. Can you imagine? It's strange. And so you can see that the whole thing has changed. But also we talked about PFAS, we talked about other upcoming components. It's quite difficult. We could get new treatment systems. So the way the role is being played is not ready for the future. So we have to change. But also looking at a simple example as mobile phones. When I go to my son, I said, well, here we have a phone from 1970, and he looks at me. Well, what's a strange thing with numbers on it? Where's the letters on it? And he doesn't understand. So you can see the way things are changing, and the way that things are moving ahead now. The change is going much faster than decades ago. So the process operator is one of the key players also in the future, for us to make the 100% quality water we make. And his role will be a little bit different. He has nice tools like digital twin, like all digital kind of, but the creativity of a process operator, you cannot put it into a mobile phone or in a system. That's one thing we have as human beings. And I think the process operator looks at a crisis, sees something going wrong, and the system doesn't work. And he will come into place with his creativity and to say, okay, this is the problem, we will fix it. So that's a little bit, so his role will be a little bit different than now. And well, in 80 years, who can tell what's rolling around on this earth? But I think the role is still there, but a little bit different.
Very good. Yeah, I think you mentioned there around kind of water quality becoming more important, and actually, despite the lots of discussions on automation, AI, data, all that sort of thing, the human creativity element is still going to remain crucial to that role of the operator, because it is quite a multi-skilled job. But okay, we're kind of coming to the end of the part two, but Audie, I've maybe coming back to this question again, but 2100, the role of an operator, if you were to look at your kind of job in 80 years' time, maybe reflect on some of the things that we've talked about and how you see that evolving.
Yeah, I think, Doika really brought out some excellent points there that, I think you'll never take the human. Maybe never is too harsh of an absolute, but I think the human element in this will always be an important role. I don't think we're ever going to get to the part where we completely take that out of the human out of the operator position. I think we'll end up being more efficient. I know for us, that's kind of what we're looking at. We had this conversation with our board about what do you want us to focus on, and for that discussion, we want to focus on the technical side of things. We want to focus on the regulatory side of things, the water conservation, the water loss, efficiency. We'll do the technical side of things. We'll hire someone else to come in and do the kind of the more labor intensive side of the work. But I think we'll kind of continue to move along that direction. We'll have partnerships with people like Chris who can help us to use the data to start to make better decisions. Even as a smaller utility, being able to kind of crunch the data and make sure that our efforts are more focused on where they need to be focused on, whether that's water main replacement, infrastructure development, or how we do even our daily operations. But I think that human creativity is so essential, and we have to continue to be able to communicate all of those different things to our population, to our customer base. No one's going to be able to do that better than someone who's on site every day, who knows exactly what they're dealing with and what their concerns are.
Very good. So still the kind of the role of the human operator is still going to be crucially important. Let's hear from you, Chris, to kind of bring us home, and then final words from you, Yalka, afterwards on this.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of great points have been made, but one of the themes that I've heard from a lot of folks just in the last few minutes here are just the difference between, if I could say, like a job and more of a calling would probably be a little bit bold, but maybe a career. I think people get into water because it's a job. I think it's our job as leaders to encourage them to make it a career, and I think when operators look at their role as a career and not a doer, I think that the mindset shifts. So whether you're looking at technology adoption or just a change in behavior, we work with a lot of operators too, and whether it be a small utility or a big utility, there is a little bit of concern that automation is taking away jobs in that too. Mm-hmm. So hopefully our technologies and the companies and even the professional services that the industry support encourage people to look at these things as careers. And, for me, it's a little bit more of a calling to be an entrepreneur, to be a leader in a business and that too. But it'd be great to encourage that. I think the other thing Audie mentioned very quickly, they looked to their board to get a sense of priority. That is both wise and a little scary, because you have elected officials that sometimes set priorities, and they have worries and fears and risks that are different than the reality of treatment distribution reliability. So I think that the challenge, in at least what I know the best, is in the US, there's an opportunity for regulators to de-risk innovation. I have not seen that discussion. And I think that there is potential things like nutrient trading, or like even carbon credits, which don't exist in the utility space here. So we're actually maybe able to reward utilities that choose innovation that net benefit the industry. I think those are all kind of neat things that play into whether it be adoption of technology, whether it be retention of employees, all these things. So there's all kinds of opportunity out there to make a difference.
I think the theme of de-risking innovation and even kind of failing in a safe environment is perhaps we'll need to come back for a part 3 to unpick that a bit more. But thank you, Chris. Yeah, and Yalka, final kind of comments and reflections.
Yeah, well, I only can add that what is already said. The role of the operator will definitely change, but it will still be a crucial role. We will still need it, and he must be able to use all the tools that we are building, but also contribute building them.
Very good. So to kind of link back to part 1, to the role of the operators to continue to see themselves as stewards of the community, providing this essential element, the potential to mentor young professionals, to leave a legacy, to use these exciting tools, including digital twins. That's incredibly powerful kind of, I don't like the word career, because almost like occupation, or Chris, you mentioned it quite well, as a calling and a purpose. So yeah, I think that's a really nice way to end the discussion. Well, thank you for everyone for tuning in. Thanks to the panelists, to Audi, Dauke, Joke, Chris. Really glad we could connect these different speakers across the pond. And for those of you tuning in, as I mentioned, the next QTalks coming up is going to go into more detail on the topic of PFAS and actually innovations, business models, new research and development around that. So make sure you subscribe and stay tuned for that. Thanks again for tuning in. My name is Tom Freyberg, and hope you look forward to the next QTalks. Thank you.